Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining our lesson series. As promised, Civil Rights Era Movements and Leaders. The Women's Political Council. Started by Mary Fairburks and made of mostly middle-class, educated Black professionals, the Women's Political Council, WPC, aspired to encourage Black Americans to aim for success and to rise above mediocrity, and civic involvement through lobbying and increasing voter registration. While Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is the most well-known figure of the Montgomery bus boycott, the WPC was the organizing force behind the protest. The WPC was largely responsible for motivating middle-class Black Americans to become involved in the fight for civil rights. Emmett Till. 14-year-old Emmett Till traveled from Chicago to Money, Mississippi, to visit family in 1955. After purchasing candy at a white-owned store, he was accused of touching, whistling at, and making lewd comments to the store's owner's wife, Carolyn Bryant. 3 days later, he was abducted from his uncle's home by Ray Bryant and Ray's half-brother, who tortured and brutally murdered him. His attackers never denied their involvement. Yet, a jury of their peers found them not guilty. His mother ensured that his body was visible by insisting that the casket remain open during his funeral, which was held in Chicago. Jet magazine published photos of his brutalized body, which helped to mobilize Northerners to join the fight for civil rights. In 2017, the woman who accused Emmett Till and ultimately caused his murder admitted to making up the story and lying to the FBI about the incident. She was not charged with obstruction of justice, as the 5-year statute of limitations had run out. God told me, "I have taken one from you, but I will give you thousands." Mamie Till Mobley, mother of Emmett Till. Little Rock 9, 1957. 9 Black students, known as the Little Rock 9, became the first students to integrate Little Rock Central High School in Arkansas. President Dwight D. Eisenhower had to intervene for their protection, as the mayor of Little Rock blocked their entry into the school. Ruby Bridges, 1960. The first Black child to integrate William Frantz Elementary School in New Orleans was a 6-year-old girl. She endured boycotts, ridicule, and death threats, and she and her mother had to be escorted by federal marshals during her first year at the school. Due to threats of poisoning, she was not allowed to eat food that she did not bring to school herself. Kids know nothing about racism. They're taught that by adults. Sit-ins. Those students from Lane who were doing the sit-ins, they were the most disciplined young people I've ever seen in my life. John Parrish, Jackson's Sun reporter. The most famous sit-in took place on February 1st, 1960, at a Woolworth department store lunch counter. It is often regarded by many as the start of the civil rights movement. Franklin McCain, David Richmond, Joseph McNeil, and Ezel Blair, Black students at North Carolina A&T University, sat at the whites-only counter and asked to be served. Their request was denied, but the young men remained seated, waiting for their coffee. Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, a student organization formed by a meeting headed by Ella Baker, a young student activist at Shaw University. The members traveled across the South during what was called Freedom Summer, helping to register Black people to vote. Their goal was political activity and awareness. Stokely Carmichael, who assumed leadership, worked to shift the focus of the organization to protesting the Vietnam War and to promoting Black power, the celebration and redefining of Black history and pride. Unsure that they could continue their non-violent actions due to increased violence from the public and police, the organization changed its name to Student National Coordinating Committee, SNCC. Fannie Lou Hamer, a civil rights activist who, after being beaten by police while held on false charges, returned to Mississippi to focus on registering Black Americans to vote so that they could leverage their political power. She was also a member of the SNCC and helped to organize their freedom rides across the South in support of sit-ins and other acts of resistance. The mixed-race groups of students traveled on buses, sitting together in opposition of the still segregated buses that were deemed illegal by the Supreme Court. Vice Chair of the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. In 1964, she ran for Congress but lost. After her loss, she worked to implement several Head Start programs and then turned her attention to helping Black people gain freedom and equality through land ownership. If I fall, I'll fall 5 feet, 4 inches forward in the fight for freedom. I'm not backing off. Fannie Lou Hamer. The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. Founded in 1966 by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, the Black Panther Party was labeled a militant organization by the head of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover. In truth, the Black Panther Party was a community organization that encouraged Black Americans to know their rights when dealing with police officers and to learn to use firearms to protect themselves and their communities. They did not promote the use of violence, but felt that when violence was used against them, Black Americans should fight back. Chapters of the Black Panther Party sprung up all over the United States. The Black Panther Party was self-defense started the free breakfast program in Oakland, California. Its success encouraged others to begin free breakfast programs and Head Start programs at inner city schools and churches throughout the United States, many with the help of the party. The party's 10-point program called for better education and jobs for Black people, an end to unjust treatment and practices, and fair trials that included Black people on juries. Malcolm X. Born Malcolm Little, Malcolm X changed his name after converting to Islam. He became prominent in the civil rights movement, offering an alternative to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent stance. Malcolm X urged members of the Black community to organize, know their rights, and be ready to fight for justice. He thought that violent resistance was a useful option and could help secure freedom for the oppressed. However, after breaking with the Nation of Islam and completing a pilgrimage to Mecca, he returned to the United States more optimistic about non-violent revolution. Malcolm X began to embrace what he called sincere white allies and preach about the unification of Black and brown peoples. He firmly believed that white people had an obligation to teach each other about the evils of racism, but he believed that this would only happen at the behest of Black people. He was assassinated on February 21st, 1965. Thank you for joining Lesson Series. Next, landmark cases and amendments. I'll see you then.